So here I go, November 10th, take 19. I just think this is such a great topic, but maybe it's just something I'm in the middle of and I'm just enjoying. But I'm going to call it the power of necessity, both in life and in our paths of self realization. And something just happened to me, but I've also kind of just seen it with people throughout life. And it just made me wonder, how is this? What is it that's actually happening when we hit these points of necessity in life? And I think this will help. It's going to help me, and I hope it helps others. And I'm going to give you some quotes that might give you some answers as to how to tap into this power. So Plato, there's a little quote here. I believe it was Plato. I've heard this all my life, but I didn't understand the importance really. But necessity is the mother of invention. That's when we hit that point of necessity, things start to happen. So that's what I'm going to try to, in a very quick fashion, answer. So what happened to me last week is I had been a little bit lazy, I think, recently. I don't know if anybody else thought I was lazy, but I was being lazy. And it's amazing how, funny little story on that. I had a friend many years ago that he said, God, I'm working so hard. And I said, well, you're not even doing anything. No job, no nothing. And he actually flashed just in a second. He went, wow, it is amazing when you're doing nothing, how you can really think you're working your butt off. And it changed his life. I didn't do anything. It just kind of flashed for him. In fact, that's another little quote here I'll just bring up that I think is really good. Vivekananda said, everything is easy when you're busy, but nothing is easy when you're lazy. Back to that guy. It's really true. And so I had been a little bit lazy and I didn't realize, yeah, but nothing is easy when you're lazy. Everything is easy when you're busy. So it occurred to me, this whole point, it kind of flashed before me that in life, when you hit these points of necessity, some miracles occur. Something takes over and you just dive in. You lose track of the little s self. And those points, unfortunately, it can be when a person has a tragedy in life. But I know for me, when our sons were born, oh my God, I got to make money. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to get your business going. You've got to. Sports can do it. Oh, somebody says they're going to run a marathon, even though they're a bad runner, and something takes over. And so I think this necessity is a bit of an answer here. And I'm going to give you some quotes. Yeah. So here we go. Let me just get into the quote right now. Swami Vivekananda taught that the goal of life is to manifest the divinity. And he kind of talks a little bit more about that word manifest, the divinity that is already within each person, a state of being that is realized through the practices like work, worship, psychic control, and philosophy. So whatever path you choose. While necessity can be a powerful motivator for seeking spiritual truth, especially when desires move beyond the material needs, it's the inherent present divinity that is the ultimate source of power and the goal of self-realization. So I take that and I'm just going to apply that in two ways. While we're going towards self-realization, it's necessity, these necessity level points, that can also help us see consciousness, God, spirit. That's the ultimate source. So in a way, we're getting little visions of self-realization as we're powering forward in life. That's my take on it. The necessity of the moment can push one to realize that they're not simply a physical being, but also a spiritual one. Again, I'll take that this necessity level helps us find out who we really are, because that necessity level taps us into who that divine, that consciousness, that spiritual level where we're losing the little s self and gaining the big S, the self-realization. And we're not even thinking about it necessarily, but that magic power takes over and suddenly we're achieving things that could never be achieved. So when we're lazy and dull, we don't think we can do anything, but then we start taking necessity, those points of necessity, and it's amazing what can happen. And that's going to be different for everybody. It says this act, can you see it? Let's see. This can act as a powerful force pushing us to look inward for solutions and for a deeper understanding for ourselves. So again, I'm applying that both to our path of self-realization and seeing who we really are as we're applying it in life. Divinity is inherent. It's there with everyone. The core of his, Vivekananda's teaching, is that each person already possesses divinity, which is simply obscured by ignorance and ego. So there it is again. When we get those points of challenge and and necessity, suddenly our ignorance and ego dissolves a bit and we start finding out who we really are. And that's the magic. So we should, and this is what I really like about all this, instead of, and I guess I'm guilty of it too, but instead of whining about challenges, enjoy it and power forward with our challenges. Instead of whining or being worried or fearful, let's accept those and have no attention on the littlest self and just, accept the fates and move on forward, because we're going to constantly be gaining with the correct mindset, the correct tone. We're always moving forward and gaining self-realization, and then hopefully moving forward in life. I think this is really, really powerful. It sure answers some questions for me. And yeah. All right. Hope that helps.